Let's try that again.
Now we're live.
Now we are live.
Okay, good. Let's try this again. Take two.
Take two, exactly.
Yeah, so it's been a good Thursday. It's been a great day so far. And one of the great things that's happened is that the podcast that we did with Scott and Laura over at the Only One in the Room, which is right there.
Oh, nice.
Sticker. Yeah. Those guys are great. They've got an amazing podcast, and Scott and Laura are, of course, friends of Joe's and mine, and they are amazing, wonderful members of the arena fitness community. And so they invited us to do a podcast on with them at the Only One in the Room, and featured the challenges that we've been going through over the last several months since the closure, how it affects our business, the fact that we reached out into our community to ask for help, and the enormous response that we got back from the people in our community. And it was a really great opportunity for us to just be able to talk about the struggles that we've had and the challenges that we've had in a public forum. And we're so grateful to Scott and Laura for being willing to bring some attention to what we've been going through, not just because of what we've been going through, but also because I just think it's so emblematic of what small businesses in general have been going through since the closures, and especially the fitness industry. We've been shut down in LA for, what? So since we're coming up on 5 months now.
Can't even count anymore, man.
Yeah, I don't even know what year it is. We've been shut down, I think 5 months total, but we were able to open. We were allowed to open for 1 month. So we've been disallowed the right, essentially, or the opportunity to conduct business in our facilities for 4 months, and that's been very, very challenging. So they were able to help us kind of share some of our struggles and have a conversation about that. What were your takeaways from listening to the podcast?
God, my takeaways. I listen. I think it's always a really, really hard. We've been together for 18 years. It's a hard thing for me to open up and admit that we're struggling and we need help. And I think the big takeaway for me from the conversation that we had, and really just the act of them reaching out to us and conducting the interview, is that we have a priceless community. Like, you can't really put into words the strength of our community and the heart that our community has in terms of just trying to help each other. And I think that was my biggest takeaway, is really just kind of taking a look back at the last 18 years and kind of, recognizing what we've built, what we've helped to kind of put together, and how we've helped to put people in relationship with each other. And I think that was the bigger takeaway for me from the whole experience, like taking a step back and just kind of going from the letter that we wrote to the reaching out to setting up the interview to conducting the interview, and then coming back and listening to the final product, and then seeing all the different reactions from people that listen to the podcast. And if you haven't listened to the podcast, I definitely would recommend for you to go out and download it off iTunes, and just give it a listen, because it definitely, even though we did it, it was eye-opening just to hear it back and play it back, an interview like that. And I think that was my biggest takeaway, is there, there's nothing better than a strong community. And I'm so blessed that I'm just a part of it, really.
Yeah. So, the community is arena fitness, and that's always been the way that it is. It's never been you, me, Will, Stacy, Alina, and all of the other amazing, team members that we've had over the years who have been a part of the staff.
And we've had some great ones too.
We've had some great ones, and they've left their mark, in very, very positive ways. we've always just been a part of the community, and we have we're the ones, with the orange flashlights on the runways
Right.
at the airport, just kind of guiding the planes in. That's really, outside of that, we're just part of the community. And so we've never set ourselves apart. We are a part. We're embedded in the community, and the community really is arena fitness. And you know, I think sometimes it takes an event like this to appreciate the magnitude of it. We've always appreciated and valued it, but when people rally around you, um, I don't want to use the word humbling, because that's not the right word. It's just an emotional thing. When
Yeah.
people believe in you, when people believe in you and they express their belief in you and they express their confidence and their trust, it's a powerfully emotional thing. And so this whole experience, in general, but up to and including the opportunity to do that podcast, has really, like you said, has really made it obvious how fortunate we are to be a part of such an amazing community. There really is nothing stronger than a strong community. And there's really nothing that a strong community can't do, especially when there's an environment of trust and support and confidence in each other, and the kind of a single-mindedness of purpose,
Right.
which in the
A
community,
collective consciousness.
yeah, is really all about kind of elevating each other.
Hmm.
How can we elevate each other? And everybody's so cool and supportive, and it really has been um, something very special to witness. And then, and like you said, first of all, just the fact that the only one in the room is a great podcast, period. So even if you don't ever listen to the episode that Joe and I did, it's a really, really good podcast, and I highly,
Yeah.
highly recommend that people go and check it out. And it's being produced by people who have heart and who care,
Right.
and that matters, and that's something that we need right now. And it's the very fact that they have heart and the fact that they care, that we had the opportunity to share the experiences that we've had since COVID began, and to share the tremendous response that we've gotten from our community. Um, so anyway, it was a really, really cool opportunity. And you and I were talking offline, and you were saying, it's it's never really fun to watch yourself on video or listen to yourself on audio. We've done a million of these, and we because of what we do, we have a tendency to be on camera quite often. And I don't know that I'll ever really enjoy doing it. But you got to hand it to
No, I
those
mean,
guys.
and you were more
They
prepared than me. I mean, like you, with all that childhood acting that you did as a child, you would think you'd come in
oh,
and you just
oh
knock.
man, yes, that's right. It always circles back to that, doesn't it? It always comes
Listen,
back to
I'm
that.
always going to find that little bit of
Just try to
opportunity.
work it into every conversation, right? Yeah, it paid off. Mom and dad, those acting classes paid off. I wish they paid off in making me comfortable watching myself on video, or
I know.
comfortable listening to myself. Fortunately, the wonderful thing about not doing live things is that they took the 30 minutes of competent things that we said
Yeah.
and condensed it into and so it makes us sound like reasonably intelligent human beings. So
Yeah.
thank you to Scott and Laura for helping us present ourselves in a competent way. But it really was a cool experience, and it's really fun for us, I think fun for me, to have the opportunity for you and me to come together and talk to somebody else,
Yeah.
because you and I talk together, and I love doing that. And then for you and I to come together and to be able to share our experience, the experience that you and I have together with a third person, is really cool too.
Yeah. It's huge. It's huge. I don't think there's anything that can replace it. And I hope to do more of it. I mean, really, I hope to do more of it. So if anybody wants to, is listening, is out there, go ahead and let's shoot off an interview.
Yeah, I mean, if
Um,
you're good at editing, Joe and I can. If you got a couple hours to spend with us, Joe and I can put together a solid 7 to 8 minutes of useful
yeah.
material for you.
Yeah.
You just got to have a good editor and a lot of patience. But kind of shifting away from that a little bit, it's connected to that. But you were talking about the community, and the community is, I think the community, just community in general, is why I got into the fitness business to begin with. So we wanted to talk about our origin story, the origin story of Arena Fitness. And I want to talk about that, but I want to talk about how did we, before we partnered up, how did you get into the fitness industry? So what's your origin story when it comes to becoming a part of the fitness industry?
So I developed an obsession, strength training, at a very young age. And I remember very distinctly, I think it was either in 5th or 6th grade. And I would watch my dad work out. And my dad was heavily working out at Gold's Gym down in North Hollywood, which, if you've ever gone to the Gold's Gym in North Hollywood,
I've been
that's a rough gym to be there.
Yeah, that's a real gym.
And I remember distinctly, and this was a little bit later on, after my obsession through middle school. I remember being about 14 years old, sitting outside, and this guy pulls up in a Corvette, and it was a black Corvette, and it looked like the Michael Knight car. And out comes one of the largest personal trainers I've ever seen in my entire life. And he walks over to my dad, and it's my dad's personal trainer. And I'm like, Jesus, you're training with this guy? Like, are you kidding me? And it ended up being the guy who trained Arnold Schwarzenegger for Conan. So he had all these pictures of him like with the big old bicep and the Conan thing. And I was just so enamored by this guy's lifestyle, where he would just come in, he had his little fanny pack going, and
His little tub
shake.
of like steamed chicken and
broccoli.
and
Absolutely. And he would just sit there, work out, and then pop back into his Harley or whatever he had that day and drive away. And I still see that guy from time to time around. And that was my first kind of interaction with personal training. And I thought it was the coolest lifestyle to live. It's like, oh my God, dude, you get to sit there in your big old poofy, striped pants and fanny pack. With the tapered ankles.
With like the string tank top.
Oh, I had one of those. And what's funny about that is I had one of those when I was 15 years old and had no business wearing that.
Like, you were a string. Did it cover your entire body?
Yeah. And it was like the thing in the back, almost like it was like the razor back that
you had like a razor
today.
Back one.
Yeah.
That is classic.
I had it.
Classic. The only thing better would be if you cut it like midriff too. So like you that
I didn't go there.
It's a little disappointing, actually.
That was my first kind of interaction. And then from there, I just kind of made a mental decision that that's what I wanted to go into when I was older and kind of get into. So my first job was actually, I bounced around, but my first job in the fitness industry was a parking attendant at Bodies in Motion in Encino. And I remember I got hired during what felt like a monsoon. I think it was like El Nino or something like that in the late 90s that hit that summer. And I remember very distinctly sitting in this little tiny crappy booth because they had offered valet. And I'm sitting there with just a little poncho, and I'm going, this job sucks.
Yeah, this where's the Corvette?
Yeah.
Where's the Corvette and the striped pants? That's totally bait and switch.
Yeah. I thought front desk was the entry level. This company found one right
a level below
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't even get to be inside the gym. They stuck me in a box outside in the parking lot.
Wow, that's awful.
So that was my first kind of like job in the fitness industry. And then from there, like I started bouncing around from LA Fitness and different things, but I was front desk. That's when I came back to Bodies in Motion as a front desk after I got my experience at LA Fitness. Bodies in Motion gave me a shot at, folding towels.
Right.
and then that's when I met you.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my origin story as far as like
But
how
what
I got
happened after
inspired.
that? So you met me, but that was when you were 17. And then,
I
so
met
what
you.
happened between the time that that we first met and then we started Arena?
So at that point when I was 17, I was studying my butt off. I was basically interviewing all the personal trainers there, and there were a couple personal trainers there that I still remember to this day, their names and stuff. But they helped to inspire me and kind of get me on the right track as far as what's the ideology, what are the books that I need to read, what are the certifications I need to go through. And I remember very distinctly opening up that National Academy Sports Medicine book, which back in the day it was like this thick.
Yeah, I still have a copy of that.
And it was massive, and it heavily into biomechanics at the time and stuff like that. So I distinctly remember being, I had my book out, I'd be reading and checking people in and folding towels. And when I finally got my certification, at the time they weren't hiring anybody at Bodies in Motion, so I started as an independent trainer over at LA Fitness off of Sepulveda and Oxnard, and which now is in a different building across the street. But I started there as an independent trainer for the first time. And I remember going into that massive floor as a 19-year-old kid who was, at that time I had gained 140 pounds is what I was at. And there were about 30 trainers on the staff, all of which were heavy bodybuilders. Even the women were bigger than me, where they were just like their biceps were bigger than me. And I go, I need an angle. There's no way I'm going to be able to compete with these trainers. And how do I make it as an independent trainer? So I remember coming back down the stairs and being in the sales office, and I looked to my left and there was this sign that said Chirosport. And I looked down and there was just the chiropractor was sitting there with just a desk, and he had no patients or anything. And I walk over to him. I'm like, hey, what's going on here? And what he does, so he tells me he's a chiropractor and he sees patients and stuff like that. And that's when I kind of sparked the conversation of, why don't we team up and I'll do the post rehabilitation work and do those type of things, and we can work together as a team. And that's when I first started getting into corrective exercise training and really kind of understanding that there was a gap between the medical community and actual fitness. And I wanted to try to bridge that gap. I was about 20 years old when that happened. And I don't think I've ever stopped working with chiropractors or physical therapists since then. I just think that I stepped into it, and I saw the problem, and it just made sense to me to have that bridge and make sure that people always had a team of people and not just one person they saw. So I took that to Bodies in Motion, and I was able to get a job there as a personal trainer. I worked all the way up to the ranks in a very short period of time, where I became a fitness manager there. And I spent about from 2000 to 2003 is when I was there, or late 2002, early 2003, basically going up the ranks to the point where I was fitness manager. And then they started moving me around and stuff like that. And we started to develop, and I did the same thing there. I walked into the salesperson's office and I go, there's a problem here. There's a disconnect between the personal training department and the sales department. Why don't we team up together? And so we did. And that's when Bodies in Motion, I floated the idea to them about personal training memberships. Why don't we include them together? And at the time, it was very traditional to sell training as a separate thing and to do it as a package. You buy a package of 10 or you buy a package of 20, and that's how you did it, right? But to do it as an EFT, as a continual kind of thing, was a very foreign concept. But I was like, why not? Why don't you do it?
Yeah.
And I started working with salespeople and then bringing me into the sales experience and talking about goals. And that's when memberships just went up through the roof. That's what attracted, or may have attracted Drew when he first made the connection for us and go, hey, you need to talk to Joe. And that's when you came in late 2002. It was probably like November, December kind of area.
I was just about to sign the lease. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember you coming into the front desk, and I think within seconds I was like, yeah, let's do it. I'll put in my 2 weeks.
Yeah.
like we're done. Because listen, at that point, I think even though it was a short period of time with Bodies in Motion, I already saw the writing on the wall. Like I wasn't going to go much further than that, and I'd given them all my tricks. So,
Yeah.
in great fashion, the corporate world just goes, all right, thank you for your ideas. See you later. Bye.
Yeah. Right.
So I wasn't willing to kind of divulge anything more. And I was like, you know what, I need to, if I'm going to go any more creativity and trying to revolutionize the personal training industry, I'm going to do it for myself. I'm not going to do it for another company. And that was 23 years old, 2003.
Yeah.
And then the rest is kind of history. We
Did
sat
you,
down on 2 stability balls with newspaper up on the walls with our yellow
Yep.
notepads, and we go, what do
Yeah.
we want to do?
What are we going to do? How are we going to do this? Did you ever want to be a chiropractor?
It did come across, and it's funny that you say that, because I remember having lunch with the chiropractor one time, and we're sitting there, and he was actually teaching me how to do adjustments, mainly because he was like, I need to get adjusted. You're the only guy I'm working with. You need to adjust me. And so he actually was teaching me a lot, and I was catering the idea for a long time. I was like, do I want to do this? But I think at the time, at 23 years old, I saw more of my path going into owning a gym and training other trainers than I did me doing the manual work. My passion has always been on being the trainer of the trainers than it was to be the guy that was inside the trenches. But not that I didn't like it. I just saw a bigger calling towards, there's a bigger problem here in the fitness industry, as far as not only how programs are designed and delivered, but how personal trainers interact with clients from a client experience and from a relationship standpoint. And there was just a really I think the problem still exists today, as far as the actual role of a health coach. What is that? And I think it's just really misinterpreted, not just from the consumer standpoint, but I think it's misinterpreted from the fitness coach, which I hope that this whole COVID-19 kind of pandemic has inspired fitness coaches to take a little bit of a step inward and go, what am I actually doing for people? Am I spotting them? Am I teaching them to be stronger? Am I a towel boy, or do I have a responsibility to guide and shepherd this person through this journey of life and keep them at this optimal level of health so that they can experience the best life possible? I hope that this is what that has caused, because it was a huge problem 20 years ago, and I think it's a huge problem now.
Yeah, it's interesting, because our disapproval or dissatisfaction with the way that the mainstream fitness industry was addressing the needs of the customers, servicing the needs of people, is our mutual dissatisfaction with that is part of what part of what we could bond on that particular issue.
Mhm.
I had a little bit of a different path. You fell in love with it early on in life, when you were 14 or whatever, earlier than that, when you decided that training was such a cool thing. For me, it was, being in the fitness industry was never anything that I thought about at all. I did play sports, played soccer, played baseball, played water polo in high school. When I was 19 or so, I started doing some boxing and kickboxing. So I was always a physical guy, and I enjoyed working out, but I never thought about working in a gym. When I was 23, I moved to Pasadena, and I was not really, I was kind of lost, actually. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And, but there was this little gym called Bodies in Motion, and it was in Old Town Pasadena. It was subterranean. So it was underground in a basement, no windows. But I saw this like sandwich board on the sidewalk that said boxing, kickboxing studio. So I was like, this looks cool. So I went down there, and having done a little bit of boxing and kickboxing, I got a membership there. Started working out there, and I really enjoyed being there. I enjoyed being there not just because of the workouts, but because of the people. Like, people would come early, and they'd flop down on the ground, and they'd change their shoes, and they'd wrap their hands, and everybody would just kind of talk and joke and make fun of each other. And it was just cool. It was kind of like a bar with no booze. You know, it was just a social
Yeah.
place where
Yeah.
people would get together, and then we'd work out. We'd have a great workout. People were really cool and supportive. And I thought, you know what, this kind of looks like a fun place to work. And just kind of on a whim, because I wasn't doing anything else that was, you know, a passion by any means. Just kind of on a whim, I went up to the who I thought was the manager at the time, and it was Bruce, who you and I both know. And I asked him for a job, and he interviewed me, and he gave me a job, and I was in the building. They let me be in the building. Uh, I didn't have to park cars or stand in the rain.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah. You got lucky.
was my first job was basically handing out towels and checking people in from 6 in the morning till noon, and I made $200 a week. And but the great thing was that Bruce really took me under his wing. You and I have talked about this many times, for whatever reason,
Yeah.
and started teaching me about client experience, and taught me about sales, and taught me about, you know, marketing, and creating a community, and all these different aspects of the business. And it was still to this day, 27 years later, one of the most profound experiences of my life was having the opportunity to have a mentor. Because it wasn't just that he taught me all of these things, but he believed in me, and he believed in me at a time when I really needed somebody to believe in me. So it was a really pivotal time in my life. And I loved the people that trained there. So I started working there in September of 2000, of 1993. January of 1994 was the Northridge earthquake.
Wow.
So uh, Bruce, the owner of the Bodies in Motion in Pasadena, he also owned another studio in West LA, and he lived on the west side. Well, I don't know if you remember, but the 10 freeway broke.
Oh.
It broke
Yeah.
during
Yeah.
the earthquake. So you couldn't make it from the west side to the east side.
Right.
So
Right.
3 months in, he calls me up one morning. He goes, "We need to have a conversation about you becoming the manager of the Pasadena location." So,
Wow.
you know, a natural disaster actually facilitated my advancement in the fitness industry. And I went from being the towel boy at the front desk to being the manager in 3 months. And I think I got $100 a week raise. I think,
Wow.
I think I was making $300 a week. Um, so then all of a sudden I'm the manager of this gym, and I've been in the business for 3 months, but I had this great mentor. So anyway, the great thing about that was, you know, I kind of got thrown into the deep water, and I had to learn how to swim, and I did. So for the next several years, I ended up being the manager of that location. He opened up other locations, so I would be the manager, or the sales manager, or the general manager of that location, of the Santa Monica location, of the Century City location. There were several different locations, and I ended up kind of moving around in management positions for about 5.5 years. And then that came to an end with Bodies in Motion. And unrelated to my fitness career, I decided at 26 or 27 years old to go to New York, move to New York City for, you know, just because, why not? So I sold my stuff, my car, and moved to New York, and moved into an apartment in uh, the Upper West Side, with like there's like one, two, four or five of us living in a 1-bedroom apartment in the Upper West Side, and just decided, why not? And so I started working for Crunch Fitness while I was there, and worked there for a year, and then moved back and worked for Crunch Fitness in West Hollywood for a while, and it was just in sales and stuff. And then started to work again for Bodies in Motion in management, and that's when I met you. Like when I was 27, that's when I met you for the first time, and you were working behind the desk, and I was the general manager of Bodies in Motion. And then we worked together for a while. And then I left Bodies in Motion and decided to be, or actually I didn't leave Bodies in Motion. I decided to become a personal trainer too, like in 1999. And I did that mostly because I found the big box system, even though Bodies in Motion was a smaller company, it was still, their gyms were starting to grow in size and they kind of had that big box mentality. It was all about volume. It was all about volume. And even from a management perspective, Drew Tarrin, who's the one that introduced you and I really in 2003, or reintroduced us, he and I were managing together in the Encino location. And we always tried to do the very best that we could to foster that community, because it was the community feel that really attracted me to the business to begin with. But the big box industry is not, it's not, it doesn't care about anything except for numbers. And I don't remember, it's not that customer experience or customer service wasn't high on the priority list. It wasn't on the list. When you would have meetings with the heads of the company, it was just about numbers. Right. It was always about numbers. And I did not, that wore me out. And I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I wanted to become, personal trainer so that I could actually work with people one-on-one and make a difference. And also kind of interestingly, bridge the gap between the sales department and the customers. And so I became a personal trainer, because the staff, the salespeople and the management knew me as a manager and from sales and from general managing and all of that stuff. They knew me, they would put people with me. And so as a personal trainer, so I built up a really big clientele, and then decided that I wanted to leave and become an independent trainer so that I could kind of establish my own rules and not have to worry about the corporate structure and all of that. So I did that. I went to a small independent gym, and the whole time I was thinking, I want to open my own place. So in 2003 or 2002, late 2002, a studio opened up just down the street from where I was working in Encino. And that's when I decided to make the leap and sign a lease. So those are our stories, from our background stories of how we got into the fitness industry. But now I want to pick it up at how Arena Fitness got started. So first of all, during
credit card and a smile, credit card.
Yeah, exactly. A bunch of credit cards, a bunch of smiles, and then sweat dripping down the forehead.
Yeah,
How are we going to do this? But prior to that, when I was working in Bodies in Motion in Pasadena, this was sometime maybe in between 1997 and 1999. I don't know if you remember what the big Pasadena location, I don't know if you ever went there, but there were these sales offices, and I went into the sales offices one day. I'd been in these offices a million times, and there were a bunch of framed magazine articles that had been written about Bodies in Motion, PR pieces. And on the corner of one of them was this little piece of paper, and it was just taped there, and it was like curled around the edges, and I had never noticed it before, but I went up and I looked at it for some reason on this one day, and it said, "The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood." And I started reading this, and it went on to say, who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, and if he succeeds, succeeds in. I can't remember the exact quote right now. We can read it later on, or type it on the thing.
I actually have the quote here.
Yeah. So what's the part when he says, so go ahead and read the whole thing.
I'm going to read the whole thing. And here's what's interesting about this, that I was reminded about this from our dear member, Stacy Funk. She texted me this morning. She goes, I know what this discussion is going to be about. And she reminded me that we actually changed this quote.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? And the reason is because it wasn't, and we changed it in 2009 because we felt that it wasn't inclusive to our community. In our community, so the original one is the man in the arena, and I could already hear the people, this is not a Confederate, statue that we're pulling down. So
right.
don't come barking down our comment list right now. But the way we changed it was this, and you just listen to how it sounds. It's not the critic who counts, not the one who points out how the stronger one stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the one who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there's no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spend themselves in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if they fail, at least fails while daring greatly, so that their place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat.
Yeah,
so powerful
it's a
statement
powerful
right there.
statement, and it was by Teddy Roosevelt. And at the time, it was not attributed to anybody when I read it on that piece of paper. It didn't say who the author of that, the originator of that quote was. And I just thought that was the coolest thing that I had ever written. And it just resonated with me. And I went, arena fitness. That is it. The one in the arena. That's what I want to name the gym that I open someday. But this was actually, so this was pre-Google. So I did not know. It took me years. Okay. That's how long ago it was. It took me years to find out that Teddy Roosevelt was the originator of that quote. And of course, it's a very famous quote, but at the time, if you didn't know who wrote something, nowadays, you can take a snippet of anything and just punch it into Google and you can find out who did it. I didn't know who said that. So, but that's stuck in my head, and it's stuck in my head for so many reasons, which we can kind of talk about when we talk about the context of what arena fitness stands for. But I was like, that's what I want my gym to be named. And I held on to that. So when that location opened in late 2002, I said, this is the chance. And, I didn't have the money to do it. We used credit cards and didn't have any financial backing, but I'm like, well, this is what we're going to do. So, and then, I was looking for a business partner because it wasn't the kind of thing that I wanted to do alone. And, Drew recommended that you and I get together. I'm not actually going to tell that story because I want people to go to the podcast on The Only One in the Room and listen to the way that Joe and I actually decided to team up. But we did team up. And so you're right. We sat at the very beginning on a couple of stability balls with pads of paper, talking about how, what do we want to do and how do we want this to look. And another thing that I want to point out is that we needed equipment, right? And so I had very little, with very little resources monetarily available to us at that point.
Are you going to tell the Utah story? The Utah story?
Yes, I ordered a bunch of equipment. We needed to have it to open, right? So the problem that people probably don't realize is that when you order fitness equipment, machines, there's a delay. Like it takes a long time for that stuff to be delivered to you.
Yeah.
They've got to,
the delay in COVID times for a pair of dumbbells was bad? It was bad back then.
Yeah, exactly. And so they've got to manufacture. They don't have warehouses full of equipment. They make it to order and then they ship it to you. So, but I was like, I don't have that much time. I'm paying for a lease that I can't afford. We got to open up and start doing business. So I was able to find Free Motion Fitness, which is great equipment. They had a bunch of stuff. Too. Yeah, to this day. And they had some stuff that I could buy, but I needed it now and I couldn't wait for them to ship it. So my dear friend, Alon Ben Nun, and I, God bless him, man. I mean, he didn't hesitate. He's like, you need help? Let's do it. We rented a U-Haul. And actually, we jumped in a car and we drove 16, it was either 16 or 20 hours to Logan, Utah, to where the manufacturing facility was for Free Motion Fitness. We drove there, didn't stop, drove fueled by coffee and nothing else. And we physically loaded the equipment from their warehouse into this U-Haul. And One of us would drive the U-Haul back, and one of us would drive the car that we drove up back, because we rented the U-Haul up there. And we pounded home, and we did it in, we did a turnaround time of like, it was like 36 hours or something. We drove up there, loaded it, slept for a few hours, and drove back and unloaded it and put it into the studio. And we started doing business pretty quickly after that. But,
Oh, yeah.
you know, listen, shout out to Drew Tarrin for introducing you and I, or reintroducing you and I, and shout out to Alone Ben Nunn for, I mean, who would do that?
Yeah.
He's like, okay, the guy's got kids, like, in a business, and he's like, okay, jumped in a car with me and drove up there and loaded it up and came back. That's a friend right there, man. So,
Yeah.
you know, we've always been supported by the community. And so what did we do when we started is I brought my clients, my personal training clients in, you brought your personal training clients in, and we started Arena Fitness. So from there, let's just talk a little bit about the context of what we wanted to create with Arena Fitness.
The context, I think, listen, I can
Like, you
bring
know,
up,
what was our mindset? What was our goal? What was our vision?
our vision at like the very first vision, because I think we have multiple reiterations. Listen,
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't even have to be the actual language. It's just like, what were we going for? Like, what were we aiming for?
well, remember what our first slogan was, right? A unique fitness experience,
A unique fitness experience. That's right.
right? And I think that that's what we were going for. We were going for that wow experience from the first time somebody kind of sets into the doors. And what's interesting is, you know, we've got these strategic objectives that we called back in the day, and mission statements and stuff like that. And I actually found one of them, and it said something along the lines of, we wanted to be the bedrock for people's fitness, for people's health and wellness, is what it was. It wasn't even fitness, it was health and wellness. And I think that word, even till this day, to be the bedrock, is something that kind of really stood out. So I think the vision is the same vision that we had 20 years ago. You know, I don't think very much has changed as opposed to that is concerned, because you can see it even now, the way we work and stuff like that. You know, even during this whole COVID-19 development, we went straight into making sure that the area of life that they spent with Arena Fitness did not go unchanged. That was kind of our driving kind of mission when we started doing the Facebook Lives and we started doing the Zoom sessions and stuff like that. It's like, with so much just bullshit that's going on right now, the last thing people need is for their home, which is Arena Fitness for a lot of people, to change in any way. So I don't think the vision has really changed very much, especially when I look back at our notes, you know, from 2003 and stuff like that. I've got a couple yellow notepad papers that I looked into, and that's what it was. It was, I got stacks. Yeah. But that's what it was. It's to create a unique fitness experience. And there wasn't a single time, because, you know, there were obviously thousands of iterations of mission statements and vision statements that we had for the company at the time. It always involved community, every single one of them. Every single one of them. And if you read them back, and maybe we'll spend some time one time just kind of reading through them, because they're actually kind of fun to kind of read through some of that stuff. None of it involved training.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's one of the things that we've always said, that this isn't a gym.
Right.
This is a place where we can create a healthy, supportive community, and wellness is our vehicle for creating that. It was always just the vehicle. It was never the ends. You know, it was never the end. The thing that we really focused on the most. It was really just our vehicle to being able to create a community of people that supported each other. And, you know, there was another slogan that we used to use later on, which was be a part of something. Remember? Mm-hmm. Be a part of something. And that was really what it was. It was just we want you to be a part to belong. You know, it was about belonging to the family and belonging to the community. And one thing, kind of going back to some of the language in the Teddy Roosevelt quote, is that if you read it, he says something about, you know, where you fail time and time again, you know,
Right.
and then it goes on to talk about, at least if you fail, you fail while daring greatly, so that your place shall never be among those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. And that
Favorite line, by
really,
the way.
oh my God, me too, because what it means is that there's honor in trying and falling on your face. Like, that is the thing that we've always respected more than anything else. I don't
Hmm.
care if you succeed. Um, we wanted to create a place where failure was celebrated because it meant that you were trying something that was beyond your capabilities. And it
Right.
was a chance. I mean, it was a risk. You were taking a chance. You were challenging yourself. And we wanted to create this environment that celebrated um, that celebrated
Effort.
risk and effort
Yeah.
and failing and falling on your face. And if somebody fell on their face, it wasn't something where everybody would go, ooh, and then distance themselves like you're a pariah. It was good for you. Good for you. That's not a failure.
Yeah.
That's honor. You know, that
Right.
is honor. There's the old saying, you know, fall down 6 times, get up 7. That's what it was about. That's what it was about. And I've always valued that about the community, is being in the arena was always about fostering an environment where people were encouraged to try things that were scary, and knowing that they had a place that would support them if they stumbled and fell, and that we would
Right.
that the community would catch each other. And that's always been something that I've really loved about the community. And that's part of the reason why at one point we started doing a lot of the, you know, adventure races and obstacle course races, because it was kind of our way of ripping people off the couch and saying, okay, so you're a guy that thinks of himself as being a bookworm and a nerd and a geek who's never, you know, been an athlete, but you've always wanted to do something athletic. This is the place where you can do that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we will
Here's a
support you.
here's a spear. Go.
Here's a spear. Let's do this thing, you know? And guess what? We'll crawl around in the mud with you. This
Yeah.
isn't the kind of thing where we will send you off and then from afar we will watch you. We will be right there. And that's exactly what we did for a long time with those obstacle course races. Is literally we would be vaulting people over walls, and we would
I
be
was about to
crawling
say.
under the mud,
Uh,
crawling under barbed wire in the mud with people who would never ever have done anything like that in their lives, and they're screaming at us, I hate you, but they're crawling through the mud on their bellies with us. And then at the end, the feeling of accomplishment that they felt, because they decided for maybe the first time in their lives to expand outside of that box that they had created for themselves. And the feeling of accomplishment was something that was not only in amazingly um, uh, growth focused for them, you know, and beneficial for them. And you could see people welling up with tears, you know, but
yeah.
also for us just to have the opportunity to play a part in that was really special. And so that's always something that I've loved about the community.
I would actually encourage some of our members too, if you have the opportunity to just write down a little bit of your experience during that time period in the comment section of this video. That'd be great, because some of those stories are amazing. There's some of the best success stories I think of arena history was during that time period where we're running those obstacle course races. Let me ask a question. What was the one that crushed your soul?
Crushed my soul?
Yeah, there was because we started climbing up the rung. It started off
Yeah.
with like, let's do a couple 5Ks here, and then we started
Yeah.
getting a little crazy with them. So,
Well, let me tell you whose soul got crushed real early on. The second race that I ever did was a race that a gentleman by the name of William Garcia was
yeah.
actually signed up for. And it was called the Spartan Super.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in Temecula. And I decided last minute to do it with him. And I was not a runner. I mean, I just had started to run and kind of training for these things. And Will was still, still in the process of losing all that weight and everything. Um, but in Temecula, there's these hills, and for hours we were just climbing hills and up and down, and like it was cloudy and rainy, and you could see, like you could just see lines of people descending into the clouds and then disappearing, and then you'd go into the clouds and you'd see them going down, and we'd be like, this is the last hill, this is the last hill, and then you'd look over there and you'd see another hill. It was devastating. And at the end of it, Will just sat on the ground, and he was broken. He was just broken. He just sat there. And we got in the car and we were driving home. It was dead silent for a long time. And Will said, let us never speak of this. That was all he said. Let us never speak of this was all he said.
That's hilarious.
I had my soul crushed a number of times because I eventually started doing like the 13 and the 14, mile races in the cold. We did one in the cold, a bunch of us.
Well, listen, that was the one that kind of crushed me. Was
are you talking
Malibu?
Oh my God!
The hurricane.
I mean, the hurricane heat. That was
might have been
illegal. That might have been illegal because
I mean,
I feel like I got abused.
I got abused too. I think there was borderline. There was definitely borderline water. There was definitely waterboarding of some sort.
There was waterboarding. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure waterboarding is illegal. But I was definitely waterboarded by a fire hose, by the way.
Yeah.
With a tanker.
Yeah.
And I remember laying there underneath the barbed wire on what should have been a mud trail, but was actually jagged rocks.
It was pure rocks. That was horrific
rocks.
It was because they were spraying the fire hose, and they had washed all of the dirt away, and the only thing that was left was rocks. And that was horrible.
And I remember going, this is horrible, but it really struck home when I looked to my left and I saw my dear wife crying. And she goes, Stacy was having a meltdown, and she looks over to me and she goes, and she just started working at Arena Fitness too. She goes, I don't know why you think that a dancer can do stuff like this. This is horrible. And she just started breaking down. And I'm like sitting there under the barbed wire going, I'm so sorry. Please don't leave me.
Listen, we did not expect that. I mean, we were up at dawn. We were in the parking lot. We had done probably 200 burpees before we even started on this thing. We had to hold a candle and keep it lit. Somebody had to be piggybacked the entire time, which was usually Stacy.
Which we later figured out we could have actually changed up the partner. We didn't have to have just one person.
She had like bruises all over her body from being carried.
I think she had a minor pec tear.
Yeah, I remember jumping into that freezing water. There was a lake that we had to swim across, and all of that stuff. But here's the thing. We always did that with the members, and that's what made it fun, because it's the war stories that you tell afterwards that make it fun. The race itself may not have been fun, but at the end, that's my favorite part. Like, I can remember being in Malibu at the end of a race, and everybody's getting dressed in their tents and in the tents, and then they come out, and everybody's happy then, because it's like, yeah. And remember how many people would break down in tears at the finish line, because they had really accomplished something that they never thought that they would be able to accomplish. So those were great. Those were great things.
Those were not only great moments, but that experience. And listen, we have those experiences in the gym sometimes, teaching somebody how to squat or do something that they've never done before. And those are the moments where I come back and I go, this is the essence. This is the heart of Arena Fitness, is when those moments, those rare moments come about. And listen, I say rare moments. It's probably rare moments for most people. It's remarkable how many stories, it's endless, that we can tell from people that have dared greatly because they just trusted us. They trusted us.
Well, they trusted the community, because the community was always the safety net, right?
Right.
And daring greatly, I love that. Just be willing to dare greatly.
Right. And that's, I mean, listen, that's it. Arena fitness in a nutshell. That's what it's about. That's what the people bring to it. And they breathe life into that every single time that they step into the gym, or they step into the Zoom sessions and stuff like that. And it's awesome. I'm eternally grateful for being part of this community. And there's really nothing more to say than just thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for daring greatly.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And then, the only thing that I would add to that is that mentality has always been the undercurrent of what we've done. But the other thing is that this was never really about working out and trying to eat right, and that's it. It was always about creating a life that was healthy and that would, foster uh, physical and bodily and mental health so that you would thrive in your life. And so to that end, it's always been so much more than just working out and cutting carbs.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
about training your body and respecting your body in a way that you can experience the full power of the human physique, during the course of your life, just the full potential of your body. It's really fueling your body optimally and understanding nutrient density,
Don't
and
go Plato on me.
make.
Are you going Plato on me?
No, yeah, it's like, a little bit, because it was always about a
Yeah.
mentality, right? It was a holistic mentality of, really bodily health, optimizing your physical body, learning about nutrient density so that you can fuel your body properly and respect your body, and then also about mindset and about stress management and about sleep and about how do I set and maintain goals. And so it's really evolved over the years into much more of a wellness community than just a
Yeah.
gym or a training center. It's much more of a wellness center, but always that undercurrent of, be willing to dare greatly, has always been there. So like you said, it's always been an amazing thing to be a part of the community. And I can't tell you how many times they've lifted us up, and they've been through us through a lot. They've been through us, with us through marriages and having kids and buying houses and losing people in our lives, and significant life events. And we've been through with them through all of those events too.
Right.
Think about how many kids we've seen that we started training when they were teenagers, and we saw them go through middle school, through high school, through college, get married, have kids of their own. We've seen
A
that. We've
lot.
been able to be a part of those lives for so many years that it's really been an honor, I think, for both of us to be a part of that community, because it's really their community. We're just a part of it too.
Yeah. There's nothing greater. There's nothing greater. I think those times, it's awesome. It's awesome to see,
Yeah.
the evolution of the relationships even grow too within the community too as well. And we've seen people fall in love with each other and fall out of love with each other.
Yeah. Yeah. But
But
we've seen a lot of people become really good friends with each other because of that community, and
oh,
develop
absolutely.
entire little groups of people that enjoy hanging out together and so on and so forth, that didn't know each other before they came.
Right.
So it's really taken on a life of its own. But that's probably long enough for today. But it's fun to reminisce, and just again want to encourage everybody to check out the podcast at The Only One in the Room. And again, thank you to Scotty and Laura for featuring us on that podcast and
Absolutely.
supporting us. And again, thank you to the community, and thank you for your willingness to dare greatly, and allow Joe and me and all of the team to be a part of your community for so many years.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, brother.
All right, man.
You have a wonderful day, and thank you, man. Thank you for you daring greatly and starting a partnership with a 23-year-old scrawny kid.
Yeah. Whoever would have thought that would work, man. But it
Exactly.
has. So yeah, thank you as well.
Exactly.
It's been a hell of a ride. It's not over yet.
No, it's not. No, it's not. All right, man. I'll talk
All
to
right,
you
man.
later.
You
All right.
got it. See ya.